all of us now. Thank you for coming on especially with it being a slightly different time, and that was because I went away, so thanks for accommodating me. That was cool. Obviously this week's a little bit different than we expected in Auckland, because we couldn't do the second week of Zoom visits, clinic visits. Who still needs to finish their clinic visits? Everyone's done their two on this group? Great.
I'll be using the power video, yeah.
Yeah. How did you find the power video?
Oh, sorry, I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, you haven't? Okay, but
I watched it.
Yes. How did you find it?
Yeah, it was good, but I just found from the clinic I went to, I got way more detail. So, yeah, I think you're going to get more detail when you are in a private practice, a more passionate kind of feeling. But there are clinics there that is the experience, that you're working in someone else's space as well. So even that observation, is good to notice that it was really quite different. If you've got any gaps with the power clinic video, do feel free to ask. And because just as you would if you were face to face with someone, do feel free to ask for explanation or something that you missed out on as a result of it being pre-recorded, and then that should maybe answer some of the gaps that you have. Do we ask on the notice board or email directly?
I'd like you to ask on the notice. If you feel like it's something that you just think, oh, I want this to be private, then you can just email me and I will ask for you. But if you think it's something that, if you were like in a group of 8, you'd ask in front of the whole group and it would benefit the group, then I really love it to be on the forum, so that, and someone I asked might actually say, oh, look, I picked this up or that up, and have a wee discussion with you. So that's your call, but preferably on the forum, so that we can all have a look at it and maybe help you as a group as well.
Cool, sounds good.
Yeah. Anyone got questions particularly around the visits they've had or where they're at with the clinic visits?
I do have questions on the assignment, but this might be a silly question, but like, they're not going to read these assignments of us critiquing their clinic.
No, they're not. Funny thing is,
they're going to be like our future, like in our industry, and they're going to be like, I remember that girl, she wrote about my clinic.
She gave me such a bad review. I'm not employing her. No, that is a really, really valid question, actually, because people used to come to my clinic, so I've actually been able to read those critiques as a lecturer to understand how it all goes together. And it's just a critique anyway, but they are just for myself. I will read it. The academic director will be able to read it, because he will be critiquing me and how I mark, so to make sure that it's all above board and unbiased and all of that sort of stuff. So you just knock yourself out. There's something that you... Oh,
there was anything major. I was just like, I feel bad.
And I have had a few questions. One question was, I can't remember if it was any of you who sent it to me, was, do I just have to find the negative stuff about something? And it's like, no, you don't. A critique isn't to criticize. It's to look at the whole thing and go, well, what do I see? And, what did I like, and what worked and what didn't work, and what did I think was maybe, for example, there was absolutely no pop blunts in the place. And I really feel that, it's a naturopathic clinic and it needs to show that. So it could be the environment that you're critiquing. So you can, you're sort of discussing and presenting the different things that they said to you, but you're also making up your own mind about what that means to you. So opinions are needed in this, because the part of the assignment is to actually, what would you do, what would you include, what would you leave out. So it's also forming your third assignment, which is where you're going to put together the business plan. And this is a major part of that, because you're going to be critiquing, Clinico or some of the different booking systems. Easy Book, I think, is the power one. So it's not just for right now in this assignment, it's really to take you right through to your assignment as well. Hi, Janine.
On that, so would we be like critiquing, so like making a judgment on just say their booking system, like so we'd look into what system they use and like comment whether we think it's a good one or not? Is that what you mean?
You can have an opinion on it, because this is to form your own clinic as well. So you would comment on it and say, you know, the pros and cons, maybe from the person that you talk to. So you know, has anyone got a booking system that someone mentioned?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think
Timely? Timely? Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's a-
and there's EasyBook and there's Clinico. So you would ask you've asked them, what do you use and why do you use it? So these are opinions. You know, I use it for this and I use it for that, and I like it for this. I find this works and that doesn't work. So you can also look at the website for those booking systems. So I use Clinico, and I love Clinico. It works for me, does everything except for stock take, and it probably does that, but I just haven't worked out how. So you'd say, you know, Lynette uses Clinico, and she loves it because she can use it on her phone, she can use it on a computer, she can check her appointments online, she can book files here, she can, you know, look at it, she can do invoicing, and it's a one-stop shop. However, it may not, it does connect to Xero for me, but it doesn't connect to MYOB, so I had to change my booking system. So that's sort of what you're critiquing, like what works, what doesn't work. You can get onto their website and have a look for yourself, and then you can say, I'm considering integrating this system into my clinic for these reasons, or I'm not considering this because I don't feel it's safe, it's keeping the information safe, or whatever it is that you've made your mind up about.
If we were gonna say what we thought we were going to put into our clinic, would that be one of the notes that we would have in that third section of the assignment, or would that be within that first section? If that makes sense.
That is, let me just check. I need to make sure I get this right for you. You can put it throughout the assessment if you want, or I think it's logical, but it's how my brain works, at the end to go, and this is what I do in my clinic. Okay. So I've seen a couple of examples from years before, including about my remedies, which was funny. Like, oh, how dare they? But no, they're right. So mostly, and I'm just going to sort of stand back a little bit so that you're not reading it, mostly it was just going through the questions that you were given. So the questions you were given answer the assignment, like it's a little bit of a gift there. So it was just a combination of bullet points and short sentences. And then right at the end, this person chose to do what I would do in my clinic and why. And that was really nice. It was like, oh, I'm getting an idea of, you know, you've seen a couple of things, you've done a bit of research, you've found some other things, you've talked to different people, and you're starting to form an opinion and a direction based on what you've seen. So as long as it's, you know, following the rationale and looking at the reasoning that we've asked for, you're on track. You've got a very small word count.
Yeah, I'm well over the word count already. I'm even finished, so I'm gonna have to cull it back a lot.
This assignment is very okay in a bullet point format for as much information. You know, you don't have to justify why they used why I use Clinico. For example, my story about Clinico is I used to use Google Calendar, and I used to have a diary, and then as I got busy, the two things, like by the time I got back into clinic from where I was double booked, so that didn't work. So I tried to use the Google Calendar to be more interactive, and it didn't work. So then I looked at Clinico, and I found that it could do most of what I wanted, and it could do all of these things. You can write, my remedy uses Clinico for these reasons, you know, good with appointments, it's online, looks after products, does invoicing, and communicates with Xero. You know, that is fine because you're saying why it does. Then if you need more time to discuss something, like I think, you know, ethics might be more of a discussion rather than bullet points. So anything is just pros and cons of something. That you don't need to waste lots of words and be too descriptive in there. This is not an essay. This is a observation. And when we give you a form that's got, did you notice in the form that I gave you, you know, there was sort of about that much room to answer the questions. So we're not really looking for an essay. We're looking for, hey, this is as much as we expect you to write in this box. It's probably enough. Yeah.
The way that the assignment is worded is...
Who is speaking?
Cindy.
Oh, hi Cindy, can't see you.
Got my video on. So the way the assignment's worded is that we're only meant to talk about what we bring into our own clinic in regards to safety and ethics. But when you were giving that example and talking through, like, because there's been areas where I want to comment, like in the marketing section or in the booking system, about what I'd bring in, but that's not how the assignment reads. So
let me just go through that.
I think it said just to include the safety and ethics.
Yeah, not that it has to all be on that.
Okay.
That was your own observation you would incorporate to ensure. Yeah, that is quite ambiguous. The most important thing, so yeah, is as part of your critique, you need to analyse the range of safety and ethical issues pertaining to each clinic practice. And then it says, from your observation of each clinic, justify measures you would incorporate into your own clinic to ensure safe ethical practice. That's the question. If you answer that, you've done it correctly. If you have got room to put some more information in, to say, you know, also I'd like to include this or exclude that for these reasons, that's fine as well. But you must make sure that we're really looking for, this is the only place that you can give us that kind of ethics and safety information. You can do kind of a summary that will tell us a little bit about your clinic, and I'd love to see that. That would be ideal, but it must have that, if nothing else.
It's less about, because when I was writing it up, I kind of was saying, like, this is what they're doing, which is really good, and then these are the recommendations I'd make to them about how to improve. But it's not about that at all, is it? It's not about recommending to them. It's about taking those learnings and doing it ourselves.
Yeah, it's a pure observation. You're going to critically look at what they do, which means I'm looking at it as if I was going to purchase it. You know, what do I like? What don't I like? What am I choosing? Why have they? And this is the chance I get to talk to a practice about, you know, the legal and ethical dilemmas that they've faced, because that's the only place that you're going to be able to find that for this assignment is from talking to those people. And also there's a little bit of it coming up in this week's work as well, which will give you some more guidance. So that's really why that's so important in this assignment.
Will this week's work be helpful in us finding references for this assignment?
Yeah, have you been, who's been watching the forum? Because I've been putting things up on that. So this week's will be very helpful, because this week we're talking about medical ethics, the NZAMH constitution. You're going to see the power clinic consent form. So I know it's getting late and it's getting close, but it's all in there this week. So you've asked the questions, and so it's just sitting there maybe a little bit undeveloped at this point in your assignment that you've taken down, but you'll be able to look into this and make some small comments based on the work that we do this week. And I think we've got the Zoom on Saturday as well. So this information will all be uploaded, I think, at 5:30 on Friday, which means you're doing this on Friday night if you're keen. But I did today put up on Moodle the Code of Health and Disability Services Consumers' Rights brochure. Did anyone see that sneak up in there? You're very, very alert to Moana.
All over it.
I saw something. I thought you might. So I put that up just tonight. And where did I put it?
You also emailed it to us, which was
it came through as a link in an email.
Yeah, I'm not that good. It just does it by itself, but I'll take credit for that. So that's really important. You need to. It may be different in Australia for you, that you might need to have something similar. And someone else also said that they're seeing a chiropractor. So that code of ethics is across the board, and you'll read in there that it is written for hospitals, doctors, counsellors, nurses, optometrists, rest homes, home care providers, homeopaths, therapeutic masseurs and midwives, and we just put ourselves into there as well, because for some reason they never write naturopaths. But this is our code of ethics. So we'll always have this up, and chiropractors and osteopaths may have their own ones, and certainly naturopaths have got. Sorry, I'm just making sure I just let everybody in. Did everyone come in who wanted to then? Okay, hopefully no one's out in the cold. You've read that I put the NZAMH one up as well last week. Saw that? Yeah, so that's actually not due till next week, but I figured you'd all be panicking by now, so I snuck it in ahead of time. So there's plenty of information in all of those, and every sector, so chiropractic, osteopathic, homeopathic, naturopathic, and Chinese acupuncture, whoever you're going to see, should also have their own constitution, which involves the code of ethics.
Should I be looking for something similar but in Australia? Because it's...
Where are you planning on working?
I don't know.
Yeah. I would, well, yeah, Shannon obviously wants you back. I would be happy with you to use the New Zealand one, because we've done the power clinic, so that's what's displayed here. If you who else did you see in Australia? Was it a chiropractor that you saw?
Yeah.
So I would just be checking in with them. What's their guidelines and what do they use, and at least then you can just link that in, so that we can. It may be different. You might look at it and think it's exactly the same, but it would be worth whatever practice you're at, but don't worry about going further back unless you really want to, and seeing if there's a form like this in Australia. There probably is. Okay. It's pretty standard legal document.
Okay, so if can I refer to the New Zealand stuff and pretend the clinic's in New Zealand, or no? No.
So the power clinic is our basis. You can, but the chiropractor that you went to, they should have told you what their their ethics were, or where to find that. They should have it displayed. So we've got a notice board over there, and it's pinned on it. So it's like, there it is. So sometimes it's on the back of a toilet door in a doctor's rooms. So you might even notice that if you do go to the doctor. Have a look. It should be there should be a what are your rights somewhere around. But it's not just what are your rights. What are the other kind of things that you discovered when you asked those questions about safety and ethics? What were the sort of answers that you got?
One of the big ones I thought was treating minors.
Mm.
When I was reading the medical herbalist thing, it said that you know, you shouldn't treat anybody under 16 without a parent there. One of the clinics said, yeah, she adhered to that, and the other one said, no, she's treated people that were 14. I just wouldn't feel comfortable. Something I picked up like.
Yeah, I think it was almost as young as 11 or something.
Without parental consent?
No, had parental consent, but would treat them on their own.
Okay, if you have parental consent, and that is written consent, you can. So it would depend on the situation. For example, if I had a child as a homeopath who had some real anxiety, and it might be about leaving mum at the school gate, and is not going to open up because maybe mum screams at the child and gets so shitty that the child's now really, really scared and in a real pickle. So sometimes I will say, would you like, and I will have checked it with the mum at the beginning and saying, if I want to talk to your child on her own and she's looking uncomfortable and she might just want to say something that you're not in the room, I'll ask you to go and get a glass of water. Are you okay with that? So I've got consent already that I can see this child, and I've also just got permission that the child can sit with me. And so sometimes I'll just say, look, you know, if you want to tell me anything that you don't want to say in front of mummy, that's okay, and mummy's let me know I can do that. So, you know, it's different situations, but you must get written consent. You must not ever start even talking to a child about anything, even in the waiting room, about, you know, how are you feeling today, how's your tummy, nothing until you've got that consent granted. And I mean, you really wouldn't talk to someone in the waiting room about their tummy anyway. That's another issue.
Sorry, not to can I just quickly ask you a question, Steph, because we were at the same ones.
Yeah.
Yes. I didn't get the part that she did ask for consent. I mean, I could have missed it, but I just, because I interpreted it, she said, if they're 11 or older, I'll ask them if they want their parents involved.
Right, yeah.
Was that how you interpreted it, or did she say that she gets consent first?
No, I didn't hear anything about consent, and that's what kind of made me a bit think, oh, I just wouldn't be comfortable doing that. But
well, that's really good, right? So that's really good to write as an observation, and then you back that up with what you've now read in the NZAMH Constitution, because it's all in there, isn't it? And you know that we do require this, and you know some of the other things that we require are that we lock our files away, that we don't. Well, I mean, talking in corridors is kind of I don't know if it's written in the Constitution, but it should be. You know, that we don't discuss anybody in a public area. You know, there's confidentiality. Did you have any clinics that share patient files?
The clinic I went to, there's like a myo, chiro, and I think like a massage therapist, but they all shared one iPad.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. Are they allowed, like, just say you went to the chiro and then the myo went on and looked, are they not allowed to do that, or they can because they're at the same clinic?
No, so there's still permissions. So we've got, for example, there was myself, Kohei, Natalie, quite a few of us when we were in the clinic in Browns Bay. And if someone is seeing me, I am their practitioner. If I think it's really important that they go and see, you know, the other homeopath, or they need to go and have something else, a recommendation referral letter is made to them, and then we have the same process of signing a permission that they are going to be your practitioner again. So you can't just have a chat to Kohei about this patient I saw today, and what do you think? You'd have to get permission for that. So in that one laptop or iPad, there may well be permissions. So it would depend on the booking system. So in here, anyone can see their name and number because we can all book, but we can't see any of their information, and that's because there are permissions. So there are permissions right through the whole system that mean only I can see my patients, but the receptionist can make bookings, but she can't see any of their other information. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty clear, and if anyone is just grabbing files and sharing them, that's not good. So you can see how important it is to follow the rules, you know, because if someone, you know, for example, the clinic, if there's no, that you went to Shannon and I can't remember who else, someone that I can't see.
Oh, did I stop by?
Yeah. So if you haven't got permission and you haven't got that parent's signature, and that child goes home and has a nightmare that night and says, oh, my naturopath said I've got cancer, you're in a lot of trouble. So it's about protecting you. It really is about protecting you. Preferably you want that parent to be in the room all the time. And if the parent goes out of the room, you want that door slightly open so that, you know, there's that communication, and it's for your protection as much as anything else.
And with the referrals between the different practitioners, because that was again something that they did at the clinic I saw, it's like verbal, like saying to the thing, oh, okay, are you okay with me referring? So that's
yes, you can ask permission there.
Yeah, like verbal permission.
Yeah, verbal permission, but then there still needs to be a declaration signed to say that this person is now acting as your practitioner. That is our rules, and I think if it's not the rules, so there's a big difference between legal and ethical. So it may not be that they legally have to do it, but ethically, should they? So those are the sorts of things.
Neither of the clinics that I went to have like a consent form that they said they don't have a consent form that they get signed at all.
It's not legal. It's a good idea.
Yeah, so that's what my clinic gal said. She doesn't do it, but she knows she should. She just hasn't gotten around to it.
Yeah, it's look, it takes you 5 minutes. I think I've printed the power one out, and it's going to be available for you as well. So it's a very good example. I've printed so much stuff out now, I can't find anything. It's a very good example of what you should ask and how you should ask it. So feel free to just use that, and also look at it when it comes up. Let me just see if I can find it. Look at it when it does come up to inform your questions of what you actually did see when you went in, and think, you know, is what I saw enough? Where is it? So many things that you've got a lot of reading to do next week. Chat amongst yourself.
I might have to take off, and I'll watch the rest of the video recorded if that's okay.
No problem. Who's going?
Steph.
Oh, Steph, I can't see your face, so yep, no problem.
Oh, I don't know what.
It's just come off fairly small.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, see you later, Steph. Will I see you on the weekend? Maybe, maybe not. Okay, so I think on the weekend we'll go much more into the politics and the ethics and the things like that. There are some videos to watch, so probably, you know, you've got a week to do them, but I think what we'll do is we'll go through at least one of the PowerPoints as if we're in class, particularly because we may not be in class next week either, Nicola, looking at what's going on. So it might be a big group. And then we're going to talk sort of about the difference between medical ethics, legal versus ethical, autonomy, cultural concerns, all of those sorts of things that really are ugly heads in these conversations. And you're not going to have to write an essay on this, but, you know, whether or not it's in the assignment, this is one of the most crucial things that you need to know. So you need to really get this under your belt. How you're going to behave in conflict, how you're going to advertise, what you can say about the products you have, the kind of claims, as we saw in those earlier readings, that you can make about what you can and can't do. So it's real foundational stuff, and it really saves you bacon later on, because when someone says, oh, she said she could do this, it's like, no, I just know if you lined up 10 people that all say I wouldn't say that. So you've really got to get your story straight when you're dealing with people. Has anyone else got questions sort of for me before I ask you some more?
Lindy, I just wanted to know what will be happening if we can't get our second clinic visit, or if you've got anywhere with that.
Yeah, have you you haven't had a second one? So
I haven't.
Yeah,
so I was
so
using Power as one, and then I was meant to be coming up on tomorrow.
Yeah. Were you going to be seeing Alison?
Yes.
Yeah. So I haven't had it confirmed to me yet, but there will be an extension, so don't panic. What I imagine will happen is, if by some miracle we'll keep going, we'll arrange probably a Zoom recording of a clinic. But what I'm going to try, which I think would be better, is to do a live Zoom with a practitioner, so like this, maybe with Kohei or someone that isn't me, so that you can interview another practitioner. So we will make a second clinic happen for you. And you can run it just as if you were, rather than a pre-recorded like Power, which I think is great. I'm going to see if we can do a recorded live one where you guys are interviewing still, and asking the questions you want to.
When you say you, Charlotte, or Lynette, do you mean you as in plural you, or you, Charlotte?
You lot.
Okay, so, okay, yeah. So in that sense, then we could use, if we did get a clinic visit in, if we could choose between the Power Clinic and this other one as our second one?
I think if you've already chosen the Power Clinic and another visit, we'd like you to use that. But I can ask permission if that would be available to everyone as a choice. Because things are different. We've just got to make sure we're doing everything correctly with the degree, so that we don't put it in any danger. So okay. I just need to make sure.
Okay, so the live Zoom interview that you're talking about would just be for those who were supposed to be going to that clinic visit.
Yeah, okay. But I'd need to check that one out. I still haven't had a chance to have everything confirmed to me about extensions and all of those kind of things. But what I do know is that Mark and Robin and Karen and everyone are working like beavers in the background, sort of crystal ball gazing and trying to put some processes in place. So we will make it happen. It might just be a wee bit, might need to be a bit flexible.
So would really would that extension be for everyone, or those who have missed clinic visits this week?
I would say it's those who've missed clinic visits. Yeah. So if you've, if you haven't been impacted by this, so if you've done your 2 visits, just carry on, please. But there's just a few people who have been really impacted, who had both visits this week. But if you have done 1 visit, then you can use the Power Clinic and then you'll stay on track. But Charlotte, from my understanding with you, you've done no visits yet. So you would just have the Power Clinic. Sorry.
Sorry, I thought I unmuted. Yes, that's right.
Okay. Is there anyone else who's in the same situation as Charlotte? Okay.
Yeah, I am as well.
Who's that voice below?
Rhiannon.
Oh, you're not on my screen, Rhiannon.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I was due to go yesterday.
So Rhiannon and Charlotte, you can start with the Power Clinic, definitely. So please get that one sorted. And I will find out what to do for your second visit. Urgently, and extension. And there's no shame in asking for an extension in a time like this, or any time that you need it, to be quite honest. Okay, all right. So as far as the actual assessment's concerned, not too much trouble with this one?
Oh, good to have you clarify with the bullet points, because I was starting to sweat bullets on how the heck I can't keep it small like that. Yeah.
Just maybe one more question. Is there any sort of like guidance that you would give on like how much like of a word count we should be spending on like what we would include and like the ethics and safety as aside to the other ones? Like
I would say
probably not in thirds, right? Or
yeah, I would say the bulk of stuff is going to be answering those questions with bullet points. You know, what's the marketing strategy? What's this? What's that? I would say, you know, probably a good 4 or 5 sentences on ethics and safety, if you want to sentence it rather than bullet point it, and probably 4 or 5 sentences on how you see this integrating into your clinic with these issues in mind. So yeah, the majority of it being bullet pointed. You can get a lot of information with you know, and not a lot of fancy words. So I'm not looking for fluff in the what do they use, and it's hard, and I can see from, you know, some of the other examples that it's lovely. I loved this clinic, and I could see this and that, and it was so wonderful and effusive. But really, what was the marketing strategy? What did they use? And then at the end, you can bring some of that personality into it if you've got any word count left.
So when we do the question on what we might incorporate into our own business, we can speak in first person? Yeah, I'd love that. I think you should. Yeah, because it's an opinion piece at that point, isn't it? As long as you are incorporating the task and the rationale into that. And so that could even be a combination that it's what I'm looking for and how I'm going to, you know, address these issues in my clinic. So we're looking for, with everything you learned, how do you make a safe and ethical clinic?
So with the first section, when we're talking about pros and cons about the clinics we saw,
yes,
that's also an opinion, right? But we couldn't use I then.
Well, the first part is really interviewing the client, the practitioner, about what they used and why. So that's sort of pros and cons. But in your wrap up, you could say, I want to use this system because it's far safer than the other one. Or you might even have not liked anything that you saw and have found something else and say, I want to use this system because it ticks off safety, it ticks off confidentiality, you know, it means I can run the clinic the way I want to. So you can have an opinion.
Yeah.
You can. You don't have to be black and white. You don't have to choose your clinic based on this. You just have to show that you've found out what they do and you've said this, you know, things that worked well, this, and this, things that weren't so good, that and that. And that can be from your own opinion or from what the person said.
Sorry, I'm so confused. So the first section is like statements, like I went to this clinic and this is their marketing strategy, this is their marketing tools, but I'm not critiquing that section. I'm just stating what I saw.
What you saw.
And the critique is just the bottom section where I'm talking about what I'd like to include from a safety and ethical perspective.
Yes, but you can critique in that first section if you want, where you know, it could be the top. You could list everything that you liked, but you could also list what you didn't like. So
we could talk about strengths and weaknesses of
Of Clinico or of EasyBook. Yeah. So you don't just have to go EasyBook does this, this, and this, and that's great. You can say really good for booking, not so good for like does dispensary but doesn't keep stock of individual mills for herbs, for example. You could say does all its own invoicing but doesn't connect to MYOB. So you can make that bullet point as well. Does that help, Cindy?
I think so. I spent like a day trying to write it,
Yeah.
and it was so tricky, and I'm just like, I've written it wrong basically, so I'm just trying to figure out how to use what I've done but rework it, because I basically
you want to send it to me?
Maybe I'll just send you a section an example, because I've basically gone, here's what I saw and these are the recommendations I'd make off the back of that.
Okay, send it to me. Let me have a look at it, because we're not robots. And like everything, most of the examples I've seen have been one way, but there's always a different way of thinking, and it's all about you answering the questions. You don't have to do it like a robot. So answer the questions, make sure you're happy with it, make sure you've met the learning outcomes and the criteria, make sure you hit the word count and you reference 10 references. Yeah. 10.
Okay.
I had, sorry, Tim.
You go.
With the references, do they need to be like 3 separate reference lists for each, under each clinic? Or
no, just do the references all at the end. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
My question, I did mention this last time about the ethics of the power clinic. It's some ethical issues. And today when I was watching the video, nothing was like screaming at me. But I don't know if that's because, like, I didn't know that the, was it the waiting rooms near the rooms or something like you mentioned, and an issue could be hearing like students talk.
So that's a really good point. So in the clinic, we do not have any conversations in the hallway or in the dispensary. We've got a workroom, so we either go into the workroom and shut the door, or we go into a room and shut the door, so that it's private. So that you imagine we don't come out and say, oh, what are the herbs you're making up? Oh, well, she's constantly constipated, so we're going to give some laxatives and see how that goes. And then the poor person comes out of the room, and the person in the waiting room's, having a wee giggle. Mm-hmm. So that's something that we ensure. So my last clinic was there was very little space. So we used to have to do things like actually say to people, look, I'll just need to keep your voice down a little bit just to make sure it doesn't travel. Definitely we were very cautious about where we had conversations. We had music going in the reception so that it would muffle things, and we also put a noodle on the door, and we had soundproofing in the walls. So it's a big deal, and so what are you doing about that, and what are how do you cope with those conversations are really important.
It just wasn't like obvious. I didn't think of anything obvious by watching.
I see. Please put that up as a question.
Yeah.
And then we'll get it answered for your assignment.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, because if you were interviewing them, you would be asking those questions. So yeah, do that and we'll get that answered for you.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
I had another question.
Yes.
The other thing I found when writing it was, so I'm thinking of BioTrace in particular.
Right.
So a lot of the things, she wasn't like, there's a marketing person, there's an accounting person, it wasn't her clinic. But then so half of the stuff was, I think we do this for marketing, whereas the other half was, I do this as a practitioner, I will see this, I won't see this. So half the time she was speaking on behalf of the clinic and the other half she wasn't.
Yeah.
They just, what are your thoughts on that? How?
I was listening to that too, and I thought, oh, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
So you could put marketing. BioTrace has a marketing specialist.
Yeah.
and Joe at BioTrace. And so you can talk, and depending on the different sections, would be quite different in that case. So yeah, the clinic had a booking system, BioTrace had a booking system. They had their own accountant, so that's fantastic. She didn't have to do anything, you know, so that's really cool, as long as she can find out what she wants. But the difference would probably come in once you got to professional and ethics and safety. That's when it was more about her as a practitioner. Yeah, so she wears two hats, you know, there. And for me, one of the questions around that I was dying to ask, and I don't know if anyone did, was in a situation like this, as a practitioner, is she able to use other products if they're better suited to the client's needs? And I wasn't sure, and that would, for me, come down to an ethical dilemma. Where what if there was something better for that person? That was something that I thought about. So I'm not sure if that question was asked.
I think it was in our group. I think, Deanna, you might remember more clearly. I think what she said was they only use their products in the clinic and they only hold their products. But right. I'm not sure if there was something that she knew of that she wouldn't say, you could use this. That wasn't clear, but definitely in the clinic, they were only using the three that the two they own and the one that they distribute. Yeah.
So, you know, so that's a really that's a thing to muse over, isn't it?
At the clinic I saw, which was mainly the chiropractor, they also had some like bioceutical products that had herbs in it. And I didn't know if that was ethical because they hadn't studied herbs, but they still dispense them sometimes.
It's a grey area, that one, and it's one that I'm not sure is going to be solved anytime soon. I like to say stay in your lane, you know, but the thing is, all of these with their qualification, and it's a pretty high qualification, you know, the people like Metagenics and Bioceuticals, they want them. And I think ethically it's up to them to not offer herbs to people who are not trained in herbs, but that's not happening.
So could that be something to talk about?
Definitely, absolutely. I mean, without training, maybe they've done some development. Excuse me. I think I'm swallowing my hair. That's a definite ethical issue. My son is a chiropractor and we have this conversation on a fairly regular basis. And he stays in his lane pretty well. And he sends people to myself or Kohei where he goes, oh, this is beyond my scope of practice. So scope of practice is a really important thing to understand. It is for us, and where I see a lot of my colleagues and probably myself in the early days as well, getting out of my lane or out of my scope of practice, is becoming a counsellor. You know, people come in and they've got lots of problems and you just want to help them, but it may not actually be appropriate. So an example happened tonight with me. I'm working with a couple, but I didn't realise they were a couple because they've got very different names and they both sneakily came in at different times. And then they tell me all about each other and how much they hate each other, and you know, how much, and I've just had to say, well, actually, I can only work with one of you now because it's not working. That I can't be professional and detached because of the situation. But the other thing is, I can't save their relationship either. I'm not a counsellor. I'm not a psychologist. That is out of my ability and out of my scope of practice. So I can certainly help them work to anger management, maybe with some herbs, or help with depression, or, you know, get their nutrients up and get them sleeping better. And then with homeopathy, I can also work on, you know, you personally, you know, what's triggering you, but I cannot save their marriage. that's out of my scope of practice, they need to go and see a counsellor. So that's also another thing, is trying to do too many things becomes quite unethical as well.
Just on the scope, oh, sorry, you go.
There you go.
Mine was same, on the same track, but slightly different. Just the scope of practice thing. I just had a thing that happened with my boyfriend a couple of weeks ago. He went to like a 2000, and I had given him the name of a product that me and Kohei had talked about. And he went, and they didn't have it in stock, but the girl was like, oh, you can take this one, it's exactly the same, it's just they've got different names for the enzymes. And so he spent however much on it, and then he sends me a photo of it and was like, oh, they didn't have it, but she said this was exactly the same. And I looked at it and nothing was the same. And not only that, like, it had dairy in it, which he's not meant to have dairy. And I was just like, how are they qualified to say that none of the enzymes were the same? Like, it was just, I was quite baffled.
And unfortunately there is no proper regulation to stop that. So, but you must not do that.
No, I wanted to call her up and be like, gave my boyfriend dairy in it. You could take that back and say, this is what I asked for and this is what you gave me, and it does not match. If someone comes in to see me and they've been to see another naturopath, I will always ask them, their reason, and are they still seeing their naturopath, or have they moved on, and would they like me to contact their naturopath for their notes, or are we starting from scratch? You've really got to get some qualification. The problem with if you've got a dispensary, it is good to be able to provide your patients with pretty much what they need, and you can see the issue that happens right there when you don't have something or you can't provide it. So that's a really good thing to try and get your head around, that you are providing the products or the link to the products so that you can actually stand behind the suggestions you're making. Because if they go off and get something else and it doesn't work on your information, but then they end up getting something different, they're going to have a bad experience. So it's a little bit of control there. Corinne, you had something to say, or did you?
I did, but it's gone now.
Oh no!
What was it?
Write it down in the corner.
What were we talking about just before Shannon's comment?
The couple.
Yeah.
The couple. Oh yeah. It wasn't really a couple, but it was my practitioner was saying she had a real dilemma because she had a mom bring this young child in who was obviously in a lot of distress, and she felt quite strongly that she wanted to help the child, but the father was very, very anti-naturopath, and she was just completely stuck in the middle between the two. She made the very hard choice not to treat the child because, from protecting herself, really, you've got to, because that father could have made her life absolute hell, even though she had the mother's consent.
That's actually something that I don't know that we quite cover either in our permission form, because we basically have the mother or whoever's there signing to say we can see their child. And that raises a bit of opens a can of worms, because we're not actually seeing dad at the same time. Most of the time, it's usually one parent at a time. Yeah. So
I think in this instance, the parents had split, obviously. And I think from a legal point of view, if one parent has signed, as long as they're a guardian of the child, then you're probably covered. But
ethically, she was right to step back, because it could have caused an aggressive, abusive. So you've got to put your human brains on.
That's exactly right. And I mean, fortunately, in this case, it has worked out well, because the father has come round. Both parents have come in. After she's been working with the child, and they've seen vast improvements. But it didn't happen until the father came on board.
Yeah, and sometimes you've got to step back, don't you?
Yeah, and I think that's, we all go into this wanting to help, and I think that can be a really hard decision as a practitioner. So I think that was kind of you've got to make those decisions for you. It was not treating both of them,
That is such an important point that you just said. You know, we all, I don't imagine there's anyone going in here for any other reason than to make positive changes in the world through natural medicine. I can't imagine, well, you know, maybe someone's in there thinking they're going to be a millionaire, but surely you've worked that one out by now. But, you know, we are going in there to help, but we still need to be controlled and ethical and thoughtful and considerate. And you know, we're in a very vague profession where there aren't rules, but there certainly are consequences if we do, you know. So our rules have to be ethics. We really have to look at, hey, it may be legal, but is it ethical? And it's really important that we have a good grip on that. So with that said, that's what we're going to be looking at next week. And I just really hope that today was valuable for just getting some conversations going, particularly around your assignments. If you're totally stuck, so Cindy, please just, I won't be marking it, but I'll just have a look and see, you know, because if it's just your style and it's all there, let's not send you backwards. You know?
I appreciate it. Yeah.
That's okay. I have had a look at a couple of things because I'm all up. I think I'm looking after about 60 people, so I can't be, you know, like it can take me 2 days. My cert course, I was getting questions the night before it was due. It was too late, you know. Yeah. So, you know, I am available with Zoom. I try and get back to you on the day, but like today I've been in clinic from 8 till now, so a wee bit hard.
And you've got birthday cake waiting.
I do. I'm chicken. So I'm going upstairs, and wine.
No Galliano?
I had a sip of it, just to be, and it was it's the new one that's got coffee in it, and it was really nice.
Really?
Very nice. Coffee's a
Sounds like you have had bad experience with it, Tawana.
Yeah. So we
I hate Galliano. Is Galliano the one that tastes like licorice?
Yeah.
Oh, there's two. There's the long yellow one.
Yeah.
It's really sweet.
Oh no, that's disgusting. No, don't have that one.
Oh, I don't like licorice.
This is being recorded, so we probably shouldn't have a big conversation right now about this. Who's coming on Saturday?
Yeah.
Zooming.
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Cool. All right, well, I'll let you know how tonight went, and I'll see you then.
Cool.
Thank you.
See you
Later.
Bye.
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 Bye.